2025, we had lots of immigration changes and the rules are changing within the UK. Have you seen any difference in a way that you recruit to your own clinics?
Most people that come from overseas now, they can't just stay.
It is so important when you have a recruitment system which tests people alongside their strengths. It
Yeah.
will be so beneficial for the NHS to do that too.
And then all your values is this because you said so. Yeah, this is my value as well. So it's a lot of prepared answers, and that can be a bit.
Now, this was a perfect example for somebody who's trying to apply for private clinic roles. Because you've moved into entrepreneurship now, you own 3 clinics already. How did you go about the logistics of getting this space, which location you choose, what you do? What was going through your mind?
What is the cost? How much is this session actually costing you? Because you're only going to be able to price it if you understand what the cost of the session is. How did the client come in? If that person who needs a treatment course doesn't come back, there's a cost, not just to the business, but to the client. They're going to go stay in pain. And then the worse, they're going to go next door to the clinic next door and they're going to say, oh, when that, they're not very good because I had a one session.
I would like to share something with you. 83% of the regular viewers on this channel haven't subscribed yet. Can I ask you a favor? Please subscribe to this channel. It will take fraction of a second, and in turn it will help the channel bring more credible physio leaders and guests, and we will learn from those guests. If you enjoy the content that I bring to you, please subscribe to the channel, because my commitment to you will be that I will try everything in my power to make you the physio leader that you have always been dreaming about. Thank you. Some physios don't just step into private practice, but they intentionally build it. That's exactly what our guest has done. A physiotherapist who took the leap from being a clinician to an entrepreneur. And he went on to establish 3 physiotherapy clinics across London through CBR clinics. What stood out to me wasn't the growth of his clinics, but how he grows. His belief in personal mastery, values alignment, and building teams based on strengths, not just CVs. So, if you were to apply for CBR clinics, rest assured, you will be the perfect fit for the team. And you'll hear more about this as we go through the podcast. Alongside his clinic ownership, he is also supporting private clinic owners to recruit virtual assistants. And that recruitment is value based as well through SouthLink Recruitment. So, who should be listening to this podcast today? If you're a physiotherapist who's looking for jobs and who wants to know more about recruitment into private practice. Number 2, if you are a physiotherapy private clinic owner, or if you're somebody who is thinking about opening a private clinic. As we go through the podcast, I would suggest you sit with a pen and paper, because you'll have lots of tips and golden nuggets as we go through the podcast. So please join me to welcome Bruno de Jongh. Bruno, thanks a lot for accepting this invite.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. So, Bruno, let's get into the podcast. Can you share your early career, and did you face any challenges when you first came to the UK?
Yes. So I graduated in Brazil. I came to the UK. I finished my degree, came to the UK, but I only came to stay a year.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought I'm not gonna go into the physio thing because I need to take CPCs, it's gonna take forever. My plan was just to come, spend a year, go back, get some experience, improve my English, go back home, and that was it. And I didn't even like physio. I
Okay.
actually almost quit uni on the last year, and I was so fed up with it. I didn't enjoy it towards the end. At the end of that one year, I thought I want to stay another year. And then I stayed another year. So I was working in bars. I was doing all this work, but nothing with the physio. And then by the end of the second year, I thought, I do think I want to stay longer, or, a longer term. So I need to look into that. And then when I started looking into it, it all takes forever, as you know, with the HCPC, especially if you're a foreigner. And they were asking me for lots of documents that I didn't have. I didn't come prepared. I wasn't prepared at all. Whilst these days, when we are interviewing people, a lot of people, they do the HCPC in their home country and then they come in. I mean, that was something that I was not. It didn't even cross my mind. I had no direction really. I had no advice on this because it wasn't part of the plan initially. And it was really, really difficult to get all this done. And I think at some point I thought, I'm just going to park this and I'm going to try and get involved into treating people through other means. So I studied complementary therapies, lots of it. I did Bowen therapy and then Emmett therapy, and I already had a shiatsu degree from Brazil. So I started treating people like that. And I hit a ceiling with that. And again, I thought I need to do the physio. Finally started to make a push for it. Then the HCPC made it really hard for me because then it was already 4 years down the line. And they were like, so what have you been doing for 4 years? Not physio. So they asked lots and lots of questions and they wanted more and more stuff every time I went back. So they asked me for X, I brought them X, and they said, okay, now we want Y. And I was like, okay, it's Y. And so we went. And at one point they asked me for something that I just didn't have. And luckily I bumped into a fella from my university from Brazil. And he was here in the UK and he was already working as a physio. I was like, how on earth did you get it? Because they asked me for this, and that. And he was like, oh yeah, they asked me as well. I've got everything. I was like, give it to me. So he gave me the stuff because it was the same university. He was 1 year behind me. It was the same everything. So I just sent it to them and then they approved.
Excellent. Bruno, if you don't mind, is it okay if you share what that one thing was that HCPC asked you? Was it like an evidence from university or something you
Yes,
had to produce?
it was a glossary of everything we've learned in the
Okay.
5 years, because in Brazil it's 5 years to do a bachelor,
Mm-hmm.
it's not even a master. So everything. And it was like, I don't know how many pages it was, but I was asking university on email and they were not coming back to me.
Mm-hmm.
And this fella, he already, I don't know, I can't remember if he came with it or if he also asked university from the UK and they gave, I don't know, but he gave me the glossary. I was like, there you go. That's
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Okay.
And
A tough journey, I would say.
yeah, difficult to start. It's almost like the universe was like, how much do you want it? How much do you want it? Because he's putting every single obstacle
Mm-hmm.
in front of me for me to just go, oh, I can't do it. So it's that obstination. I was like, no, I need to get this done. And eventually it happened because I kept pushing it. And then the universe put in front of me the
Mm-hmm.
person who had what I needed.
Mm-hmm.
So it's insane, really, if you think about it. But I think if you push it, you get what you want.
Amazing. And I think this leads us to our next question, which is, what transferable skill did you learn in your early career? And I think we've got some of those answers already. Because how much do you really want it, is what you
Yeah,
said. Yeah. So when you
right,
start something new, especially business, I'm sure you would have these moments a lot of times where you had to prove yourself that, yes, I really want this. How would you
right.
describe that? And what was that one skill that helped you?
Having an end goal, or not necessarily an end goal, but an objective. And I want to go that way,
Mm-hmm.
and I know I want to get there. Then is sometimes reverse engineering. How do you get there? What steps do you need to take in order to get there? And any roadblock, there will be roadblocks,
Mm-hmm.
and then you just gotta work your way through the roadblocks, and it will affect your motivation. It will affect your self-confidence, your
Mm-hmm.
self-worth.
Mm.
But you gotta persevere. You gotta believe in yourself. If you really want it, it's there. You just have to show the universe that you really want it, because it's gonna keep throwing things at you just to say, are you sure you want it? Show me that you want it, and then I'll give it to you. So I think that was really important. But another thing that I think is really important is, especially in the private practice, you have to have people skills.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have people skills. You have to be strong in your relationship strengths. You need to be able to relate to people, to empathize, so that people feel heard, so that they trust you. Because if you don't do those things, they're not going to trust you. If they don't trust you, one, they might not come back. But if they do, they might not be as not that they might not be as compliant with the treatment. Well, there might be that as well. But I feel like outcomes are not as good if they don't trust the person
Mm-hmm.
they're working with.
Yes.
So, and I think that's valid for anything. You know, if you're working with a business coach, if you're working with a psychologist, if you're working with a physio, anything, if you don't trust that person and you don't do what they say because they're the professional, they're the authority, you're just not going to follow through.
Mm.
And because there's no trust, so you gotta have those people skills to build that trust right at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yes. Very important point there.
yeah.
I when I have my own community calls, I usually say this: you have to surrender to your mentor. It
Mm,
is likely that you will have lots of doubts. You would not trust what the mentor is saying, but unless you surrender to the process completely, you're not going to get the result that the mentor is trying to give you.
yeah.
That's such a useful point. And when it comes to, you said, tell the universe what you want. How would you tell the universe what you want? How do you tell the universe?
By persevering,
Mm-hmm.
by not giving up, by not parking it and just going and doing something else.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's so easy these days, especially with phones who have a million notifications a day, and you can get into doom scrolling. I mean, I had a big problem with for years, actually, since I was a child. I had a massive problem with video gaming.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a master procrastinator, and I would spend hours in one day playing video game because I was that avoidant to face things,
Mm-hmm.
and that didn't help.
Mm.
And this is something that I struggle with over the years, but I managed to overcome. And these days, there's no gaming at all. When my kids, like, we bought these cameras for them that, just video, really, really basic cameras, but there's a game in it, or two or three that they found it. And I'm like, what? So whenever they go too quiet, we know they're with that camera. So I think those cameras actually, they are in the garage now because they're not allowed anymore. So it's, yeah, it's so easy to get distracted these days.
Mm.
So if you allow those distractions, and it can be other things like people will binge Netflix, that's a distraction. People will maybe go to the gym too much. I have a friend, she goes to the gym too much. She goes to the gym 2, 3 times a day, spend
Mm-hmm.
hours. That's a way of avoiding it. Things that are happening. Some people drink. Some people gamble, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So there's so much distraction these days, so much noise, but you gotta cut the noise. You gotta focus, and you
Mm-hmm.
gotta remind yourself every day where you want to go.
Yes. So it's important to push through no matter what comes your way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you. So tell me, with your adjunct therapies that you learned in your early career, did you do that as a private practice? Because you've moved into entrepreneurship now, you own 3 clinics already.
From me
Mm.
being a single practitioner,
Mm.
you mean? I guess first you need to learn to trust people,
Mm.
and also when I started, I ran a self-employment business model.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to allow people to come in and trust that they were going to do a good job, because one, I didn't have any hiring process. I didn't know what to look out for. I basically hired people because I thought they were nice. And I was very lucky at the beginning that I had some fantastic people coming to work for me. Um, and I think when people are self-employed, they have risk on their side as well. So they push a lot more. So, and then I can't tell them what to do because they're self-employed. So I had to trust people to just do a good job for the space that they were, in the hours that they were taking in the clinic. But then over the years, or in the last 2 years, we moved into an employment-based model solely. So we don't have any more self-employed physios. They're all employed now. And then leadership changes a lot. Then it's not about so much trusting people. You still, of course, you have to trust people, but you do have to guide people on how to do things, because you know that's how it works. And you have to hold people accountable, and you have to teach people how to be accountable. Some people just don't know. Then another level of the leadership is to then start delegating. When your business grows to a certain size, you are going to have to delegate, because you can't be wearing all the hats. You can't be the clinician, you can't be the clinical lead and the business manager and the CEO and the visionary and the client care. You can't do, and the marketing, you can't do all those. You have to start delegating the stuff that maybe you're not that great at, so that you can push the business with the strength, or with what you're really good at doing. So me, for instance, I'm really great with people. Yeah, we do this Clifton strength testing, personality test I've done it with myself and with all my staff, so that I know how people are wired, and also everybody that comes, candidates that apply for jobs, we test them, because we need to know if they're wired for the job, if they have relationship skills, if they have strategy thinking, whatever it is that we're looking for. All my strengths are in relationship. And I'm not very good at pushing people to, sales, let's put it that way. But I'm great with in relationships. That's where all my strengths are. And I've got to lean on that. So I've got to do these days I do jobs mostly that are to do with driving the business by creating relationships with different businesses, collaborations, sponsorships, whatever it is. So I'm bringing business in, I'm bringing new clients into the business by leaning into my strengths. And then I delegated stuff for my business manager, who leads with execution. And then she's got some strategy thinking, so she can think outside the box. And then she's got more execution, and my client care team as well. They are high in relationship and execution, so that they can establish relationships with people, have deliver great customer service, but also get the admin done. So as your business grows and you become more of a leader, you have to start handing over things that it's not in your zone of genius.
Yeah, and I think this is the most difficult part for an entrepreneur, because they are used to doing everything themselves when they first start. It is so difficult to let go, because you can't trust that they will do exactly how you used to do it.
They
And
never will. Nobody ever will do as good as you. But if they do 80% of the job that you would do, if it's 80% as good as, it's good enough.
Okay.
But nobody will ever do as good as you.
Yes,
That's
thank you.
something people have to come to terms with. I had to come to terms with. But if it's good enough, great. Let them run with it. Otherwise, you're never going to hand it over.
Thank you. So please note this as the first tip in this podcast. It's okay to let go as long as they do 80% of the job like you would have done. That's it. Don't aim for 100% expertise, go with 80%. Okay, so that's the tip. Thank you, Bruno. That was useful. Here. Now, when you said you started your journey as a self-employed,
Mhm.
am I right in thinking when you're self-employed, you would work with other physios across the country, and if you get patients who require physiotherapy in that particular part, you contact them and they would do the shift and they would make sure that they see the patient, or was it a different kind of model?
No, it was a different model. It was similar to running a clinic,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I was a sole trader, and then the therapists that I hired to work on site with me were also sole traders. So then we worked on there was no salary to them. There was
Okay.
just a commission on the treatments that so they would only get paid for the treatments that they actually had on the day,
Mm-hmm.
which made them, work hard to fill up their diaries. It was in their interest to fill up their diaries, otherwise they didn't get paid. But I still always relied on partnerships, collaborations, marketing to attract clients. Yeah,
Okay. So it was a clinic setting. So you
yeah,
opened a clinic and then you had professionals who worked for you as self-employed as opposed to being salaried.
correct.
That's interesting. That's interesting. And that's a good model too. So tell me, when you got in touch with these people, you still had to start somewhere with your clinic. And I was more interested in how you decided that I can actually open a clinic, and how did you go about the logistics of getting this space, which location you choose, what you do, what was going through your mind?
To be honest with you, I was going blind most of the time. And I was going like, I think this is working. Let's just go that way and go a lot of gut feeling and a lot of no advice whatsoever. Right. Um, the way it all started was I I was teaching fitness classes in the gyms across London because I just landed into that because I was quite passionate about that. And I was already doing the massage and I had the complementary therapies and all that. So I was getting clients from the classes, from the gyms that I was working at. And then I found a really cheap room in a gym in London Bridge and I hired it. And I was really not using it. It was very little. And this was back in the day when Groupon existed. You remember
Mm-hmm.
Groupon? So
Yes.
I did a Groupon, yeah, and they sold hundreds. So I was busy all year with the Groupon. And I mean, I probably wouldn't have done it like that these days if I had started again. Um, but anyway, that's what happened. And then with the clients that I got with Groupon, I just kept them coming back with a voucher here, a voucher there, and it's kept enticing people to come back. And I kid you not, I still have some Groupon clients. They're not obviously discounted with Groupon, but I still have people from that age, from that time, 15 years ago, coming into clinic. Um, but because I got so busy, then I basically had a client base. I had a business. I had a client base. I had 1,000 of people probably, and then I just found another, and then I had to move because the clinic, the gym was closing, and then I got into partnership with someone else, and she was using half the time of the room. I was using the other half of the time because I wasn't super busy yet. And then eventually she left, and then I was on my own. But that's how I started really. And this other room that I got afterwards was sort of in the same area of London Bridge, Waterloo. Waterloo is where we are now, so we just moved to Waterloo. So yeah, a lot of it I was winging it, to be honest, Priya. And I think I had a lot of, I don't know, I had a lot of determination. So even not knowing, even if you don't know, I think if you're determined, you can still make it work. There'll just be a lot of mistakes. And then eventually, oh, I got this right. Okay. This is right. So I'm going to stick to this. And then you move on to the next thing and then mistake. Got it right. Okay, got it right. Finally, let's stick to that. So it's just a lot of forwards and backwards, a lot of trial and error, a lot of time wasting. So I think if I was to start these days, I'll just get a business coach straight away. Tell me, just do it like this. Follow this recipe, which is you might have to modify a little bit to fit your business because every business is different. But there are similarities and you can adapt to things. But at least you have some clarity
Yes.
with advice.
Yes. Thank you for being so honest. And I think a lot of our discussion is going towards coaches and mentors on the way that you get. And you said if you were to do it again, you would make sure you get a good business coach on your
Yeah.
side who will help you strategize, who will help you think through before you apply any step.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a massive role that business coach could play.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So this is golden tip number 2. Get yourself a good coach, a mentor who can guide you along the way. Whether you are going to be in business, whether you are going to go with your own career as an employed physio, don't worry if you think you've tried a lot and you're not getting anywhere. Trust someone who can get you there. And if you look at it at the scale, I think, Bruno, that's where people struggle. If by investing in a mentor and a coach, you're going to get 35K job per annum, can you not spend a little bit now so your
Absolutely.
longevity is there?
Yeah, it's an investment. Coaching is an investment. You have to see it as an investment. It might be a cost at the beginning, but it will pay off later. And there's so many other benefits of coaching, right, that we haven't talked about yet. But not only you get that expert advice from people who have been there, they know how it works, just go and do it this way. But you also get community. Because I'm in this coaching group now and there's 70 clinic owners in this group. I mean, there's several tiers to it, but I'm in the tier where I've got access to another, I don't know, about 40 clinic owners daily, that if I need to ask a question I'm struggling, I don't know, I'm unsure, I'll ask, and I get at least 10 replies and say, oh, in my clinic, I do it like this. In my clinic, I do it like that. And then you could just see what works for different people and think, yeah, I feel comfortable with it. So that sense of community, because it can be so isolating to be a clinic owner. I certainly felt like that, quite alone and not knowing. And sometimes you get advice from people, from business owners or friends who are in business, but they don't quite get your business. And then you're so conflicted because you just don't, you feel like, well, in a different industry than mine. Is this advice valid for me as well? I struggle a lot with that, with taking people's advice, because I just wasn't sure if it worked. But when you hear from the horse's mouth, you just feel like, okay, great, because there's actually 40 horses' mouth here that I can ask about this. So yeah, the sense of community is huge. And then the sense of accountability as well. Because then often in these chats, people say, I'm going to do this, this, and that. And then people will hold you accountable for that. They text and say, so how did you get on with this? And often you get an accountability buddy as well to just help you out in these groups. So I think that's really powerful, because it's so easy to say, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z by this date. Date comes, you didn't do it. Nobody asked you about it. You forgot it. But if you've got it written somewhere, if you told someone you're going to do it, they've got it written down, they're going to ask you about it. So you just crack on with it. It's motivating.
Yeah, completely echo your thoughts. Because I've got my own community of physios who are looking for jobs or who want to get successful in their careers. So we've got them in a group. Okay, there's a website where they can, like your social media profile. We have a similar kind of platform where they all can chat to each other and get in touch with each other. They have accountability partners. They
Hmm.
have various steps that they have to go through, and there are various milestones they have to go through, and they have to prove along the way that they're actually abiding with the code of honor of the community, that this is what
Mm.
I'm following. You said to do this, I have done this. Help somebody in need. So that is so important. And
Yeah.
thanks for highlighting that. So anyone who wants to know how to get in touch with my community and how to get onto my community, there will be a link in description. Please do that. If you're looking for a job, if you're struggling, please go ahead and do that. And also, on top of that, what Bruno has suggested is a good model too, because being a coach myself, I know how important, and whatever you suggested and mentioned about your coach, I think it sounds like a good one for anyone. If you're a private clinic owner and if you don't know where to go, why not check where Bruno is, what is his coaching, and where he is based, and take it from there. Okay, so both the details will be in the description. Thank you. So, Bruno, I'm going to be a little bit picky with what you said again. You
Yeah.
said you do Clifton strength test.
Yeah.
And that was like my antenna started going. I was like, okay, it is so important when you have a recruitment system which tests people alongside their strengths. It
Yeah.
will be so beneficial for the NHS to do that too. Because often they
Yeah.
ask in interviews whether do you align with the values, and all the behavioral value based questions are asked during interview, but people are quite good at fabricating the answers sometimes. If they're quite used to say, they say exactly what you want to hear. But if you go through a strength testing, you're giving them scenarios and they have to respond based on that. Yeah. So at which stage do you do this strength testing? At application
Stage
stage or recruitment, like interview stage?
stage one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Because we used to wait a little bit and we used to talk to people, and sometimes you really liked people and everything, and then you did the test and you're like, oh my God, they're not wired for it.
Hmm.
They have no relationship skills. They've got no execution. They're all about strategy. They need to be a manager somewhere,
Hmm.
or a researcher. They're in the wrong, they're not, they're possibly in the wrong setting. This is our setting is wrong for this person. So what we do now, we do the stage one. So we send people a questionnaire where we ask several deal-breaking questions, and at the end, they have to do a color test and they have to do a strength test. So on the color test, they get it's a 30 seconds test. It's super interesting, and they get classed as a yellow, red, blue, or green. So what that removes, it doesn't remove the we were talking about people need to be values based, they need to match the business values. You can't really tell if they match your values or not, but these tests can tell me if they're wired for the job or not. And if they're wired for the job, that's one less thing I need to worry about. And on the interviews, we can focus on asking questions to understand if they match our values or not. Because I already know they high in relationship. I already know they have execution in their profile. They can do the job. Now I just need to understand if they match our values or not.
Hmm.
So have had interviews with people that have fantastic strengths. Like, oh my God, this is the perfect person. I couldn't make this up. And then you have interview and it's a lot of and then there was probably two or three that I've interviewed in the past, and their values were, oh, your value is this is my value as well. And then, oh, your values is this because you said so. Yeah, this is my value as well. So it's a lot of prepared answers, and that can be a bit. Then it's like no, because I don't feel you're being yourself. I think you've got to be yourself in these interviews.
It was very helpful because I think nowadays physios will look for jobs. Now, this was a perfect example for somebody who's trying to apply for private clinic roles.
Sure.
And you've already suggested that if there is a value misalignment you have to then do a lot once they start the role. Have you had any experiences where you've had value misalignment?
Yeah, in the past, when
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have quite a rigorous hiring process. So my coach, she has a 12-step hiring process, 12 steps. Ours is 7, but I think it's shorter, but we put a lot of the stuff at the beginning to filter through candidates. But it didn't used to be like this. And I have had many wrong hires in the past that have cost us time, effort, and money. So I think it's it's having some really good questions prepared so that you can really dig into those. What are this person's values? And I have a really strong gut feeling, and I can tell when people are saying things that I want to hear. And you're just making yourself a disservice if you go into an interview like that, because it's just not going to work. And then even if you get the job because you said the right things that the person wanted to hear, eventually the truth will come out,
Mm.
and you're going to see that you're misaligned. And it's not to say that because I think it's not just the business that needs to evaluate the candidate. The candidate is evaluating the business as well. So I think it's a win-win if the candidate goes in with the heart on the sleeve, because the worst thing the candidate can do is get into a job that in 3 months' time they want to leave. And I have interviewed several people in the past that they have been a month in the job and they're like, it's the wrong environment for me. And I wonder if it's because, but I wonder if there's an element of this, of not being true to yourself,
Mm-hmm.
or having that gut fit, or sometimes desperation. But I have a really rule for myself these days, for myself and for my team. I say to myself and to my team, we will never make a decision based on fear, no matter what's happening. The house might be catching fire. I will not make a decision based on fear because I'm desperate, because that would be the wrong decision and it will cost me later. So I live by that these days because
Mm-hmm.
I've learned the hard way.
That is tip number 3. Don't take a decision when you're fearful. So, while we're on the recruitment part, 2025, we had lots of immigration changes and the rules are changing within the UK. Have you seen any difference in a way that you recruit to your own clinics?
So I think a lot of people like me, they have been quite stuck into their old ways, and you gotta keep up with the changes, because if you don't keep up with the changes, you're left behind.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for the longest time, I was angry about Brexit because that changed everything in this country. Yeah, I've been in this country for 22 years now. It's changed everything because most people that come from overseas now, they can't just stay, which was the case before. A lot of, you got all the Europeans coming in before, and it's Europe. You just stay. So there was all this sponsorship didn't exist back then. And I think I was quite stuck on that I needed to find people that didn't require sponsorship because it's easier, obviously there's less paperwork, there's less cost to the business. But times have changed. And I think if you don't want to go the sponsorship route, if you don't want to apply to become a sponsor, that's fine, it's a choice. But when we decide to just do it, it opened a whole range of candidates for us, and it made it stopped being a problem. So and then we recruited someone last year. So I recruited someone 2 years ago who was going to need a visa in a year's time, and he was Australian. So even Australians and South Africans, we used to get them in heaps. Australians, South Africans, New Zealanders, because they had this deal with the UK that they could come and stay for 2 years, work no problem, and then they went back or something. They don't come anymore now because there's all these restrictions as well. But this guy was Australian, and he could stay for another year. I think it was a postgraduate visa or something, and then he would need a visa. So then I decided to apply to become a sponsor because of him. So he was my first one, and I think it worked really great, really well. And then I hired someone last year. I think she started July, August, can't remember. And she was going to need a visa in December. I mean, she's brilliant. She's absolutely brilliant. And she just fits into the team so well. And then she just started performing from day one. She was really great. She wasn't a new grad. She had a couple of years already under her belt. So it just really is one less problem. It's one less problem for the business to remove this, to just become a sponsor. And especially in London, I think in London especially is a massive problem. Because outside London, I think maybe you don't get so many overseas workers. You get some, but in London you get a lot more. So when you put a job advert out there, probably 95% of people will need a visa at some point. They might be on a graduate visa, and then they will require one later, or maybe they need one right now. But in London, it's how it is. So I think for us, having a physio on a skilled worker visa, it just forces that operational maturity, because you're keeping up with the changes. But what that means, it means that you can't wing recruitment anymore. You can't start recruiting when people hand in notice. You've got to be actively recruiting all the time. And this is what we do these days. We are actively recruiting on LinkedIn. Even when we don't need anyone right now, but we're still recruiting, because I don't know when someone's going to hand in notice. And I'd rather have someone ready to go, or someone who perhaps is employed and they're okay in their job, but they're sort of keeping their options open. And then we found each other, and we both like each other, and said, look, I don't have a vacancy, but when I do, I will reach out. They're like, okay, yeah, it might be 6 months time. And then in 6 months time comes, I already have someone ready to go. So you got to be on the ball. And also what you need to have more clarity on pay, progression, compliance, and retention. Because what the immigration changes, they haven't really created a problem. What they have done is they've exposed weak business models that rely on flexibility and goodwill.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, so I think the clinics that are going to win are not the ones that are complaining about immigration rules, about recruitment. The clinics that are going to win are the ones who are building business stable enough that these rules don't scare them.
You said you employ people, you keep your talent pool ready just in case you had an emergency, someone had to leave, you have somebody who can start the job. Okay. Do you write in that during that recruitment process that you're not hiring for them to start immediately? So how do you actually let them know?
I think you need to be 100% honest with that. We will never mislead someone saying, oh, we've got a position, it's for 3 months' time. We will be transparent in saying, look, so right now we are looking for candidates that are suitable, that have the strengths, have the personality, and also fit our values. And we're not quite ready to recruit right now because we're full or whatever reason it is. But we will be looking perhaps in 6 months' time. Could we get in touch? So it's just keep cards on the table. We'll never mislead anyone. I think this needs to be 100% transparent. Always. One of our values is we live with integrity. So we will never be saying things to someone that are not true. We'll always be upfront about it.
That's great. So now moving on from recruitment, let's look at other side of recruitment that you also do. So you're also the founder of SouthLink Recruitment. So you help private practices hire virtual assistants. So how do you do that? How did you come up with this idea? And how will it help anyone who is looking for a virtual assistant?
Okay, so the way I came about this was because the way our clinics are set up, we are inside other businesses. I only have one clinical room inside a diagnostic center, inside a gym, inside a business center. So we use their front of house to greet and to meet and greet. But then I always use the call center to answer calls, to follow up, to do a little bit of admin. The problem with call centers is that call centers, they have very different KPIs from the business. The business KPIs are lead conversion, capacity, and how many appointments. Anyway, there's loads, but lead conversion, when it comes to answering calls, the KPI of the call center is to answer calls within 10 seconds. That's a massive mismatch from what the business needs and what the call center wants to can provide. And I have tried, I was with one for years and they were great. They were very sweet. But I've tried over the years to try and give some tips and everything. And I got pushback saying, look, we're not salespeople. We're just here to answer the phone. I was like, oh, okay. And I think that I came to a point in my business where I started scrutinizing everything that wasn't quite working for me and everything that I didn't want to tolerate anymore. So the first thing that I scrutinized was the call center, because that was a bit of a bottleneck. It was how clients were coming in touch with the business, that it needed to be top shape. It needed to be professional. It needed to be values driven. They needed to be able to express the mission of the business. A call center can't do that. They have dozens, if not hundreds of clinics under their belts. How are they going to remember what I want for my business? So having a dedicated person was the answer to me, but I didn't have the physical space. So it had to be remote. And then I figured out I could hire someone in South Africa to do the job, which South Africa is a fantastic country because they're well educated. The English is very neutral, very similar to the British English. And if it's going to be remote, it could be anywhere anyway. So South Africa, they're educated. They're in the same time zone as the UK, pretty much. They're 1 hour or 2 hours difference. They are really hard workers. So that's what I did. So I got one first, and then I got another one, and then I got another one. So now I got a team of 2 front of house receptionists and my business manager. She's in South Africa, and she runs the show. I just tell her how I want it, and she follows up with it. And the client care team as well. They're fantastic. They're wired for the job. They 100% in with the business mission, with the values. So our conversion rates on the phone are huge. They're over 70%.
Excellent.
Which is very high because I outsource my marketing, and he's got about 30 clinics under him. And he says to me that most conversion rates, it's between 50 to 60%. Ours is 70%. So I know they're doing a great job with that. And I know there's a lot of clinics out there that they have a similar setting as mine. They are with call centers. And so it's unreliable to have these call centers. And then the other people that we can help is sometimes sole traders, which is how I started. And I had a call center as a sole trader. That's how I started. Got a call center, someone to answer the calls. I couldn't anymore. I was too busy. Sole traders who can't afford, maybe they don't have the volume of calls. If you outsource in South Africa, you'll be paying a lot less and you will sort of match what you can afford as well. So those are probably the two type of people that we can help. And we placed someone a few weeks ago to a physio clinic, and they're doing amazing. He actually sent me a video testimonial and he's loving it. He can't believe it.
Thank you. So, those who want to know more about SouthLink Recruitment, I will put the details in the description below. Please go through that. And if you are a business owner, a private clinic owner who's struggling, even if you want to just have an informal discussion, just email and see if it works for you. And if you get the right answer, you can decide for yourself. Thanks a lot for sharing that, Bruno. And again, another question for those physios, okay? I'm asking on their behalf. Those physios who feel clinically ready, but they're business shy. What would you ask them to focus on?
So are we talking about people who are going into private practice, perhaps?
Yes. So those
Right.
clinicians who feel ready that they can make this transition, but they're just business shy and they don't know how
Yeah.
to go about it. Hence, they procrastinate and they don't do what they want to do, and they end
Right.
up being in the full-time employment that they are.
Yeah. Okay. So the job of the therapist is not to convince the client to buy, and is also not to make judgments if they can afford it or not. The job is to make it clear, a clear and confident recommendation of what the plan of care should be. Because if you can diagnose a problem, you must be able to prescribe a plan. So it happened with me. I went to see an osteopath who is on his own here near home. Lovely guy, inside the gym, small, reminded me of myself. And then I saw him for this treatment. He did a great job, great explanation. Fantastic. I really liked it. And then at the end, he just says, "So here are your exercises, and see how it goes." My heart just broke a little bit because I was like, "Oh, this is me like 15 years ago. Just sort of see how it goes." There was no plan. There was no follow-up. There was no recommendation of plan of care. So, the HCPC says that it is our duty to recommend a plan of care to our clients. So if we don't do these things, if we don't do that, we've really falling short from the we're failing on those standards. So stopping short is not just poor care. It's not ethical restraint. So the three things I think they need to do is, one, they need to own the outcome, not the session. So business shy physios they might think their responsibility ends at the treatment table, but it doesn't. They need to mentally shift from I deliver good sessions to I am accountable for this person's well-being. They've come in, now I'm responsible, and I'm going to tell them. I need to ask, where do you want to go? What are your goals? You want to return to sports? Okay, I'm going to get you there, and this is how I'm going to get you there. We need to first do this, and then we need to do this, and then we need to do this, and then do this. Not see how it goes, because that's not care. So that's the first thing. That's the first shift they need to do. Not just like treatment might be fantastic, but you've got to follow through. The second thing is people will tolerate discomfort in conversations. So avoidance is not the real issue, not lack of skill. They need to practice stating the fees without apology. So they gotta say this is the value of, this is the investment to your health, without thinking as a cost to the client. You gotta reframe this, and you gotta reframe it not just for yourself, but to the client as well. And I think a little bit of that, I think self-worth plays a big part in this, because sometimes people will undervalue themselves. They'll charge less because there's a problem with self-worth there. So you've got to you got to say, this is the investment. You've got to recommend the multi-session plans calmly, without going into loads of justification. Sometimes you just got to say what it is, and then just be quiet and let them process it, rather than trying to justify, oh, so it costs this much because, you get 5 sessions, but within those sessions, I'll be available on the phone anytime you need, and I'm going to do another follow-up call if you need. And, if you're not happy, just make the plan, have it in your head, or at CBI clinics, we sell two programs. That's all we sell. We sell a 5-session program and a 10-session program. And based on what's come in, we'll make a recommendation, and people can decide what they want. And if they start hesitating, we'll just say, well, this is my recommendation. Mm-hmm. If you don't want to follow through, but me as a professional, having seen this multiple times, this is what I think is going to work for you. And just stick to it. Now see how it goes. And you got to let clients decide without trying to rescue them too much and trying to manage their wallets too much or giving extra discounts. And the final thing they need to understand is the economics of care. So you got to know your numbers a little bit for this. So you got to understand, what is the cost? How much is this session actually costing you? Because you're only going to be able to price it if you understand what the cost of the session is. How did the client come in? Did it come through Google Ads? So it probably costs you anything from 10 to 30 pounds just for them to come in, just for them to click on that, go through the booking process. And then if you've got a call center, you pay another £5 for that conversion. And then what's the cost of the rental? If you split the rental of the premises for that room, for that hour, how much is that? So you got to add all those costs to understand how much you need to charge to make up the cost and the profit on top, which should be at least double. You got to understand why continuity matters, not just for the client. Of course, it matters for the client, but for the business, it matters as well. Because if you want a business that is sustainable, is resilient, you got to have those things in place. Because ultimately, we are providing health. So I often say, I think if you lead with integrity, I find it really, really, really hard to scam people on buying physio appointments. Because if they buy a pack of 5 and after 3 sessions, they are recovered, which is not the usual, by the way, you can still use those 2 sessions to monitor, to do a maintenance check a month or 2 later, to make sure that's not coming back and that they are still they're sticking to those landmarks or to those to the benchmarks that you accomplished on those 3 sessions. So you got to understand that. And then you also need to understand why the dropouts will harm outcomes. Because this is one of the most powerful things I've heard from my coach. And I say to all my team, if someone who needs a session or someone who needs a treatment plan leaves after 1 session and they left in pain and you knew they needed more sessions, but for some reason they didn't buy it, most of the time it's not a financial reason. Because if people know they need it, they will find the money. If you know you need something, even if it's a bit tight, you just buy it because you know that's going to change your life. So if people leave after one session and you know they needed more, and you didn't convert because maybe you didn't communicate the message appropriately, or maybe they didn't really see the value with the way you were delivering it, we are facilitating pain. So them leaving the clinic without a follow-up appointment means you are allowing that pain to continue.
Mm.
So what we do in clinic, therapists, clients, after any session, either initial or follow-up, they need to have 4 outcomes out of those 4 sessions. 1, they get a follow-up appointment booked. If you're not sure if they need a follow-up, or if sort of the pain is not quite gone, you're not quite sure, we'll book a telephone call to check if it might be in a week's time or 2 weeks' time, but we will check in with them if they're okay. 3, they're discharged at any point. So it could be on the 5th session, they're fine, finished, they don't want a maintenance. Okay, but well, you know, we might still book the telephone call, and then after the telephone call, we'll book the discharge. But that's an option. And the 4th option is a referral, because maybe they come in with lots of red flags, go to A&E. You might need to refer them, or maybe they need to go and see a consultant straight away, so they can be referred. But one of those 4 things have to happen. And that's continuity of care. The HCPC requires us to do that. So if we're not doing that, we're failing to standards. So I think that was the long answer. Those 3 things people need to understand. They need to own the outcome. They need to have those awkward conversations sometimes. And I think practice will make you relax in time, and those conversations will become natural. And you got to understand as well that if that person who needs a treatment course doesn't come back, there's a cost, not just to the business, but to the client. They're going to go stay in pain. And then they're going to, worse, they're going to go next door to the clinic next door, and they're going to say, oh, when that, they're not very good because I had a 1 session.
Thank you. That was quite detailed and bullet pointed, I would say. So it shows your attention to detail. It shows that you are the person who lives by frameworks. If this doesn't happen, let's do this. And this is step number 1, step number 2, step number 3. Amazing. I was enjoying what you were saying.
Good. I think these days I tap into my green a lot more. And I tell my yellow to shush a little bit because my yellow can be overpowering.
No, but that was helpful. Anyone who is going to watch this podcast, and if they are thinking about getting their own clinic, this is absolute clarity for them. They are not being salesy by offering a session to the patient. They are trying to help them as a human being. And there is a cost attached to that. And that's your self-worth. That's everything that the patient experiences while they are with you. That's it. The moment they understand this, I think your patients will convert. They'll understand the value, and they'll understand that you value their time and money.
Mm-hmm.
And
Exactly.
that has to be communicated with your body language, the way you speak, the way you care for them.
Yeah.
Okay, so
And if they see that you have that level of respect for yourself and self-worth, they're gonna value you and your services so much more, and they're gonna go like, take my money, make me better.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So, physios who are thinking that I have my clinic and I'm dropping my prices just because I want to be competitive and someone else is offering at this price, let me offer these many pounds less. think again and listen to this podcast properly with a pen and paper. Don't just listen to us, don't binge watch this podcast. Sit with a pen and paper. Lots of tips for you. Okay, I can't emphasize on the discussion that we've been having for an hour, more than an hour, to be honest, Bruno. But thanks a lot for your time. Is there a
Um,
final tip that you would like to leave our viewers with?
um, I think if people are thinking about either going self-employed, sole trader, or going to private practice, um, if you are going to, if you're thinking about starting on your own and you're scared, don't wait for the fear to go away. Just do it anyway. Just get clear. You just have to have clarity on what you are prepared to own. So start small, but start with standards. So start with clarity, because the fear is not going to disappear when you open. It's going to stay there. It might just change shape a little bit, and it's always going to be there. You just have to shush it. Because the people who succeed, they're not fearless. They're just willing to take responsibility and accountability. I went with my kids to what's the name? It was like a zip line park. Go Ape,
Mhm.
one of these Go Apes. And then the last zip line, they only five, mind you, they're twins. On the last zip line, one of them is fearless, the other one's a bit more, ooh, and this one was a bit more scared. The last zip line was really long, and you went to the ground, and she went and she was like, "No, I can't go, I can't go." And I was like, "Come on, just go. It's just there." She was like, "No, but I'm scared. I'm scared." And I was like, and then I gave her a hug and I said, "Feel the fear and do it anyway. Just do it, because nothing bad can happen. You can only win." And she closed her eyes. And she was like, "Okay," and she just jumped. I was quite proud of that moment. And this is something that we say here in the house whenever there's situations of death. Feel the fear and just do it anyway. It's not
Yes,
going away. You're gonna conquer it.
perfect. Thank you so much. And Bruno, just because of you, the fear that you've labeled, what is the symptom of excitement? So, what do you feel when you're excited? Is it similar to what you feel when you are fearful? You are
Yeah,
labeling it as fear. It could be excitement that you have butterflies in your tummy, you're
absolutely.
sweating and you're shivering. It's because of the energy that you have to put in that particular effort. So, it might not even be fear. It could be excitement. It's just that you labeling it as fear.
And fear and excitement, they are the same emotion, but one is the positive on the positive frame, the other one's on the negative frame. So which one are you going to choose?
Positive one. Yeah.
Right.
That's the tip we would like to leave you all with. Feel the fear. It could be positive fear for something good that's coming. Thank you so much for tuning into this podcast. See you. Bye, everyone.